The quiet preaching of the monk. I will pray that you three novices don't grow up, but remain as you are now with those blue head scarves at that height and that age. Do you realize how people are quietly helped when they see you? For in the world today, people can't easily find a proper young girl. Most are wild, with a cigarette in their hand, making unpleasant grimaces. And when people hear young girls dedicated, chanting, joyful, they ask themselves, what's happening here? Something's going on. We can't say they are stupid, because they aren't. We can't say they are missing something, because they aren't. It's clear there's something higher here. Indeed, do you know how much this helps? When worldly people visit a monastery and see proper monks, then even if they are unbelievers, if they are well disposed, they can become believers. Many atheist scientists who came to the holy mountain just for a visit have changed their way of life. They are troubled in the good sense by what they see and hear, and are helped. They see young men who are joyful, who had every opportunity to succeed in the world, but who have abandoned wealth, position, and so forth, to live ascetically with prayer and vigils, and they ask themselves, what is going on here? If indeed God exists, if there is another life, if there is a hell, what am I doing with my life? So they rein in their sinful way of life, or correct it altogether. I know of one case. A young woman of 20 attempted suicide by cutting her veins, but was saved in time. After that, a monk took her to a monastery. The poor thing was wild, but when she saw the nuns there, she quickly recovered. I see another world here, she said, and asked, may I stay here? This is the silent preaching of the monks. Many preach, but few inspire confidence in what they say, because they don't practice what they preach. A monk doesn't deliver sermons out loud to be heard by others, but preaches Christ silently with his life and helps with his prayer. He lives the gospel, and the grace of God gives him away. Thus the gospel is preached in the most effective way, something which people thirst to see and hear, especially today. And when the monk speaks, he doesn't simply offer a thought, he speaks from his experience. But even if he does express a thought, even this is enlightened. Geronda. Some people say that young men and women enter a monastery because they are disillusioned or have some disability, or even because they are weak in the head. It seems that these people have one or two such cases in mind, and then go on unfairly, out of spite or envy, to 90% of the monks. But if they look closely, they see that this is not the case, and they will admit that there is indeed something higher here, that God does indeed exist. This is why a monk must always set a good example for other people. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. A true monk is the light of the world. What does Saint John Climacus say? The angels serve as light to the monks, and the monks serve as light to the people of the world. When the monk can be distinguished from the people of the world, then he can have a positive effect upon them. What helps the people in the world who are suffering over vain things is holiness, which, through its simplicity, teaches them to grasp the deeper meaning of life and dispel the heaviness in their heart.